Yes, so hello everybody. Welcome to the Fireside Chat, our April edition, just the pre-Easter edition. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us. I'm hoping some more people will jump on. Otherwise, this will be available on the website shortly. We'll put that on there, especially with the demonstration. It'll be really interesting to have that available for people to tune into later. I'd like to introduce you to Tawanda Chihambakwe from Zimbabwe. He's the founder and director of Precision Aerial, as well as Zimbabwe Flying Labs, and is working very much in the agriculture area, and has a presentation and a demonstration for us today. So Tawanda, if I can hand over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Louise, and thank you everyone who's joined us on the call today. Please just confirm that you guys can hear me.
It's a little faint.
Okay, let me try again. Is that better?
That's a bit better, yes. How's everybody else? Thumbs up? Yep, okay. We got a thumbs up.
Okay, all right, brilliant. Okay, so you'll probably see me when we do the demo. For now, I'm gonna keep my video off just so that my audio is clear. Okay. And if you can't hear me, just let me know so that I can maybe speak a bit louder. Just one more time, can you guys hear me?
Yes, very much.
Perfect, awesome. Right, so I'm gonna share my screen quick, and I wanna just do a quick, short little presentation. I will try to keep it very short. Louise knows, because we've done presentations at conferences before, that sometimes when you're a presenter as well, you can talk for a very long time. So I will try and keep it very succinct and very short. And if I skip a few slides, don't mind me. Okay.
Sure.
I'm trying to save you all. All right, cool. So quickly, just like what Louise just mentioned, just in terms of a brief, we're primarily currently involved in agriculture. And using drones for agricultural smart farming, precision agriculture practices. That's kind of our current mainstay. But this is probably, I think, maybe the third time we've been invited back to Women in Drones, and each time with a different story, talking about different things. So you'll see and realize why, because we do a number of different things, and we're involved in quite a lot in the drone industry. I'm speaking to you from Harare, Zimbabwe, which is in the southern part of Africa, and right next door to South Africa. So I'm not too far from Louise, but too far to walk. Okay, let me put it that way, right? So to get us started, just a quick brief background. I know for the guys who will be listening to this later, you can go through just in terms of the profile. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but just so that you guys know and kind of have a feel and understanding of my background, where I'm coming from. I've been involved in the industry for quite a while, and currently holding different license ratings, both in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, and soon in Zambia as well. So I'm both a drone pilot instructor as well, and hopefully becoming an examiner soon. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, my only shameless plug for this presentation is my YouTube channel. So this is where I shamelessly plug myself and say, please go and subscribe to my channel and follow all the different things that we're doing. I post videos up there about the work that we're doing, and your subscription would be most appreciated. So that's my pseudonym. So if I was a musician or an artist, this is the name I would go with, the African Drone Professional. So please look it up on YouTube and subscribe, okay? And then you can always look on social media and on LinkedIn as well and just connect. I am also fortunate to be one of Louise's proteges, I'll put it that way. And Louise is a star of the show when it comes to just thought leadership around the industry. And I've been privileged to be part and parcel of 2 of the 3 Drone Professional books. The latest one is Drone Professional 3, which came out at the end of last year, just in time for Christmas, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, so there's also publications around that that are available. And obviously kudos to Louise, who hosts this platform, but is also involved in really contributing towards the legacy of what the drone industry is and helping to shape that. Now, looking quickly at where we're coming from, I am the founder and director of Precision Aerial Group. It's now officially a group of companies because we do so many different things. Currently, we're involved in services. So you'll see there, that's precision aerial. That's our service division. Then training, we've got a training school. Flying Labs, that's our social impact division. So corporate social responsibility, humanitarian impact, that's kind of our work. And then we also have the Zimbabwe International Drone Conference, which is our latest, well, the latest actually is actually the school, but we've got also an event that we host for the Southern Africa region. Then quickly looking at the journey. So I got started first in FPV drone racing back in 2016. And this timeline is really just showing the journey around the agriculture space. But we do a number of different things within the drone industry beyond just agriculture. But particularly for that agriculture, 2016, we started with drone racing. Then in about 2019, it was the first time we got a call up to say, hey, one of the local telecoms companies actually wanted to do a demonstration or trial, a crop spraying drone. And the only people they knew who could fly drones were us. So they called us in, and that was our first kind of experience with the crop spraying drone, which was amazing because the beauty of that is you get to learn on someone else's dime and someone else's equipment, which is brilliant for us. So thankfully we didn't make too many mistakes. We didn't crash it or anything like that, but we learned a lot. And then eventually we were able to invest in our own in about the end of 2020, and then it arrived 2021. So that's when we now were able to start doing our own kind of work on our own. Just in terms of timeline for the industry, globally the drone industry has developed at different paces depending on the country you're in. And for most countries in the world, everyone knows the timeline set at 2013. 2013 is when we classify as the starting point for the consumer drone industry. There were people involved to some degree before, but 2013 was the first time that you could buy a drone off the shelf in the shop. So that's our starting point when we look at the civilian consumer drone industry. So essentially this year we're celebrating 10 years of having drones now be what they are. And it's incredible what's happened over the last 10 years. And for us in the local context, we only had our regulations published in 2018, and currently implementation is going on, but we didn't have training schools until 2021. 2021 is the first time we had people actually getting trained and licensed in the local context here in Zimbabwe. And now in 2022, going to 2023, which is where we are now, it's booming. Like the industry is really taking off across different industries in the mining sector, especially in agriculture as well, is really taking off, construction a little bit, and then the traditional kind of media kind of spaces and film and photography and that kind of thing. But for industrial use case or commercial use cases, 2022, 2023 has really been, I think, the upsurge just in terms of uptake of the use of drones for the industry in Zimbabwe. Then quick stats, just looking at this, and one of the things I always encourage is just this is an industry report from Drone I or something like that, industry report. I'll share the link maybe later. And this is just kind of a look to see where everyone's kind of sitting. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen this if you haven't already. The drone industry, really, a lot of people are more involved in services, whereas opportunity where it really lies, and where I'm always encouraging people to say software, software, software. You know, there isn't enough in terms of people developing software or customized software that makes sense for the different contexts required, be it for agriculture, be it for, disaster management, be it for tree planting drones, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. Most people are those who buy the drone and say, hey, I'm a drone pilot, or I'm a drone company, here's the service that I can provide. Whereas software, hardware, we're lacking in that space. That's where the opportunity is. Looking quickly at the group, Louise introduced me as the director of Zimbabwe Flying Labs. This is our social humanitarian impact division. You are probably familiar all with Flying Labs Network, which is a global network. We are now just under 40 countries now. I think it's almost 40. Was it 40 plus now? Countries around the world. And this is a picture from our latest retreat. That was in Nairobi in October, where we had about 60%. This is about 60%. And these are just the heads of the different flying labs from all over the world, across Africa, Asia, Europe, South America. And all of us are connected and really focused on using and developing drone technology and robotics for social humanitarian impact. So we're talking about medical cargo drone deliveries. We're talking about, in general, medicines, vaccine delivery, which is still on the medical side. we're talking about agriculture, we're looking at youth education and empowerment, environmental management, conservation efforts. So we're involved in a number of different aspects and areas. And one of the key focus areas, I think, for us as Zimbabwe Flying Labs has been primarily since we joined. We joined in 2020, and we've primarily been involved in the youth training and education side of things. And that's kind of where our mainstay has been. But as a Flying Labs, we have a number of different core focus areas. That's aid robotics, disaster management, eco robotics, the environmental side of things, health robotics, and development robotics. So one of the things we're also working with is, for example, our local municipality, so your local town council. One of the projects we're currently working on now is to do urban planning. So helping the local kind of council to plan around potential risk areas where there could be flooding or disaster when it rains and that kind of thing, right? And help them to say, right, if we're going to plan to put a settlement here or put housing in this area, we've got to make sure we understand the risks that are associated with the area that we want to get into. So that's how we're leveraging drones in that way to create gather the data, give them the data and information, be it topographical maps and that kind of thing, or elevation information around the area in which they wanted to build and construct these urban dwellings. So those are some of the things that we're involved with. We're also involved in protecting wetlands. So we did quite a bit of mapping of the wetland areas in 2021, working with different partners who are involved in conservation efforts to make sure that our flora and fauna are protected in that space. Then focusing on the education side. So Louise will know this. I think we talked about this before on Women and Drones before, is we have a strong focus on youth training and education. I think this is probably one of our strongest areas, though it's not as commercially attractive, as all the other cool things that people like to see. This is where I think we've had the most impact. Last year alone, we set a target, an ambitious goal, to be able to train at least 10,000 young learners. So these are young learners between the age of about 10 to 16 on drone technology and robotics in a manner, in a way that helps expose them to the careers and the future of work and how drones are pretty much transforming how industries operate. So in this vein, as of February this year, starting from last year to now, we've reached over 1,100 young learners, both in Zimbabwe, and we were fortunate enough to also go to Kenya last year as well to start rolling out our program there. So we've reached out quite a number of young people. Some of them are now funneling through to our training school, the older ones, and getting their pilot licenses as well and starting to get into the industry. So we're really encouraged about the impact and also just helping young children get into the aviation space, right? So we're teaching them about aviation, we're getting them involved. We do a lot of outreach programs. We do a lot of outreach programs, not just to the local people, but also in the rural communities. Last week, our team went out and reached out to over 250 girls in a rural community about 200 kilometers from the main city. So that's the kind of fun stuff that we like to do in our own time. And really all we're doing is focusing on the future. So developing the workforce of the future. That's really what our strong kind of suit and what our drive is when it comes to youth training and education. Right, the in precision aerial, our commercial side, you guys will know about this. This is the same as any other normal drone company. Primarily what we're involved with is now agriculture and disaster management. And within the agriculture space, these are some of the things that we provide. So we've got a number of different drones within our fleet. And within our fleet, we are able to then do the large scale aerial mapping. We can do short range and long range. We can do 2D, 3D mapping, boundary mapping, irrigation planning, topographical maps, etc., field analysis. We've now got multispectral sensors, and now we're rolling out a service for plant health and crop health assessments as well, which is quite fun. Then livestock counting, which is a service that our customers have actually told us they want. We didn't actually want to offer the service, but now we've been helping farmers to even count their stock, and that kind of thing. And in some cases, find lost cows and sheep and that kind of thing when they stray too far. So there's a lot of different use cases when it comes to using drones for agriculture, as some of you will know. And then quickly, this was our first drone that we ever actually operated. And that's us doing a demonstration to the Minister of Agriculture, the former Minister of Agriculture and his directors back in 2019. And that is a Joyance JT608 Pro, for those of you who are super technical and want to know which drone that is. So you can look that up, okay? We also were even involved in this. When COVID hit in 2020, we put forward a proposal to the local powers that be to try and use drones to disinfect the streets and, key areas like bus terminuses and that kind of thing. I mean, it was a wild card, I will say that. But we saw a lot of countries doing it, from China to different countries in Europe and that kind of thing. So, we tried to do that, but the Air Force stopped us. So I'll have that on record. They didn't want us to actually go ahead and fly drones in public spaces, even though everyone was at home. Just say. But anyway, then our other division, which is, I guess, kind of like, this is more of an outreach. This is kind of us trying to add value to the industry. So we organize and host the Zimbabwe International Drone Conference, which is one of the top conferences within the Southern Africa region. And we've had now for the second year running. So last year was our second edition of it. And we had people come from all across Africa. We had quite a strong team come from South Africa, including Kim James, who's co-hosts the show. And we're looking forward to having Louise and everyone here on this call right now come and join us for the next conference. We had people from all across Africa. We had even some come out from the US. So it's really a fun platform. We had a lot of demonstrations as well. So we had a demonstration day. So it's not just a conference where people sit in and just talk. We also have a demonstration day where we go out and try out the latest toys and, get everyone to kind of see what we're talking about when we say, drones are the future of work. Then lastly, I'll talk to you a little bit about training school. So this is our newest baby. So we are a Civil Aviation Authority certified training school, one of only 2 in the country. And our focus is really on training professionals for the future of work. That's our focus. And what we're doing different to most training schools, be it in the context of, let's say, I've noticed there's quite a few people like Nita and Sharon who are from the States, so they'll understand the context when we talk about Part 107, and Part 107 being your kind of like your basic authorization for you to operate. What we do is and your Part 107 would be equivalent to your remote pilot license in a sense. But what we've introduced and what we've created that's different is this advanced industry specific training, right? As a professional myself and having gone through the process, one thing I know is that an RPL holder and South Africa, and I know Louise can attest to this, South Africa and Zimbabwe are the same. Our regulations are pretty much the same. There are currently now, I could say hundreds, if not thousands of RPL holders, right? But you can't tell them apart outside of the fact that they hold this document, okay? And they don't have any industry specialized training. So in other words, you can't take an RPL holder and then put them in a mining context and say, here's a drone, use it to do mapping work. They will have no idea what you're talking about because that's not part of what's in the RPL course. And it's definitely not part of the Part 107, for example. Same thing with agriculture. So what we've designed now is these industry specific courses, right? And the focus with industry specific courses is to say, right, fair and fine, you have your RPL. But which industry application are you going to focus on? Are you wanting to use drones for medical cargo deliveries? Are you wanting to use drones for construction? Are you wanting to use drones for agriculture or for mining? Do you understand the context required? Do you want to be a filmmaker? Do you understand how to tell a story with your drone? Not just wave out a piece of paper that says, I've got a license. So that's the thing that we've kind of put forward to differentiate ourselves in terms of our training school. And it's what really sets us apart from all the training schools that we know of within Southern Africa, not just Zimbabwe, is because we have that specific focus. Then obviously we have the ratings, the BVLOS and the different instructor ratings and all this kind of stuff that you can have as an option. But one of the things we found is that people rush to get things like your beyond visual line of sight without having an industry specific focus. So certain industries don't require you to have BVLOS, but people run ahead and get the BVLOS just because it's the next certificate to get. But in some cases, you don't even need it necessarily because you're not going to operate beyond the visual line of sight limit. So it's very important to have that industry focused application and know what you want to do and get trained in that space. So that's part of what we do. These are some of the training courses. This is not all the different courses, but a good example for you is within agriculture. You'll see on the left there's 2 courses for agriculture. One course within the agriculture space is for aerial mapping data processing. The drones and the skill set required to use drones for aerial mapping data processing is a completely different skill set required for someone who's going to do crop spraying. So you can't take someone who's been doing GIS and mapping and all this kind of stuff and just put them in a space and expect them to be able to operate a crop spraying drone. So that's the kind of, mentality we're trying to shift and get people to understand that we need people who are specialists, not to generalize, not to just say, oh, I'm a drone pilot and I know what I'm doing across the board. So those are some of the things that we're training on and doing in partnership with the Flying Labs Network. The Flying Labs Network has helped us to develop some of these courses as well, and some of them we've developed them in-house. This one in particular is the one that I'm obviously going to promote and sell because we're talking about agriculture. And currently we've trained at least 12 people locally in the context of Zimbabwe on this industry specific training course. So they have their RPLs and they have this in terms of their training. And these are some of the guys that we trained. We train them out at our training field. And this is some of the work that we've been doing in that space. So now what I want to do, quickly jump over, because now I need to do the presentation before it gets too dark. This, like I said, I can talk a lot, guys. I can go on for ages. We also have a bunch of these courses. This one is just our integrating drones organization. So in some cases, we need to train the actual, the executives, the directors, the people who aren't going to fly the drones, but who need to have a buy-in and understand what is the return on investment. Why should I bring in drones? Your operational staff can be like, oh, we need drones, but why? And what value is it really going to bring? And what are the numbers? How is it going to help us? At the end of the day. So we've developed this course as well that we go into now companies and help them to say, before you even buy the drone, before you send anyone for training, come, let's teach you so you have an understanding of what it's going to cost you, what it's going to take for you to implement, what are the regulations, what are the requirements, etc. So that's part of what we also offer. The rest, I'm going to probably kind of skip over and then just show you quickly, lastly, I think 2 more slides, and then I'll take you outside. This is some of the work we've been doing. So these pictures are images of us doing crop spraying in the last couple of weeks. So since about mid-January, it's summertime here. So it's a peak of our crop farming season between December and March. So we're at the tail end now. We've just finished the peak season for summer crops. So from about end of January till about mid-March, we were spraying maybe four or 5 times a week, different farms, different crops. And these are some of the crops that we were spraying. So these images that you'll see here were taken by another drone, a different drone, right? So we used our Mavic Air 2S to film the drone doing what it was doing. So we've got videos of this on our YouTube channel that you guys can go look at. We did, spraying of soybean, we did maize, we did sunflowers, we did sun hemp, we did tobacco. We sprayed grass even, for those who wanted to do land prep and clearing and that kind of thing. And right now we're getting prepped for the winter wheat season, so wheat. So what we'll be doing now is testing our spreader, right? So you'll know, or you may not know, that with the crop spraying drones, particularly the DJI Agro series, you get both the spraying functionality as well as the spreading functionality, right? So you can replace the tank and put in a spreader, which then can spread fertilizer or seed and that kind of thing. Right, so I want to end there. Then maybe if we do have time, I'll come back and talk about just in terms of legally what's required to operate drones in Zimbabwe, but also in the context that applies to probably most countries as well. Okay, so I'm going to end you off there, and then I'll leave you looking at that screen for now. And then if you can allow me total of 2 minutes to get everything prepped outside, so we can just do a quick and very short demonstration for you guys before it gets too dark. Cool, awesome. All right.
Great. Thanks, Tawanda. Yes, we'll hang on. Definitely. Okay. No, that's amazing. The scope of work that Tawanda is covering there, and the training courses, absolutely critical to have that specific training, as he said. I'm really impressed with that coverage. And also I like that course for the executives. You've really got to get that message across that these aren't the silver bullet for everything, and to get that information across. So that's brilliant. Really impressed with that that full scope of courses and activities that that Tawanda's doing there. Has anybody got any comments at the moment?
Yeah, Louise, I'm going to drop in the chat. He referenced Drone Industry Insights as one of the sources for information. So in the most current issue of our Vertical Space e-magazine, we actually have an article by them with references to their industry resources. I'm going to find the exact page. Give me a moment, but that takes you to the page that has the current issue of our Women in Drones Vertical Space. And as soon as I can bring up a copy, I will let you know what page it's on. But they're one of our partners, one of our strategic partners. And they, as he mentioned, for those of you that may not be familiar with their work, they survey the industry constantly and provide excellent resources to data points. In fact, it's on page, it starts on page 12 of the spring issue of Women in Drones.
Great, thank you.
So I thought that that might be a good resource for people. Yeah,
Cool,
it's
thank
called
you.
the Vision of Advanced. In fact, this particular article references advanced air mobility. But if you go out to their website, there's any number of specific verticals that they address on their in terms of their research.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Yep. I can see Tawanda standing there in the corner. I think yes, thumbs up.
Ready? Great.
Thanks,
okay.
Yeah, we're ready. Okay, go for it. Yes, Tawanda, on that camera, you're muted there, I think.
Joanna,
oh, no, got you.
Okay, cool. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we are out at our workshop, and right now we're just going to do a quick demo. So we've got limited space. I'm not going to do like anything crazy or wild. I just want you guys to kind of see how the drone operates in a different context. It is getting a little bit dark, so we'll try to do it as quickly as possible so that you guys kind of see how it works. One of the cool things I think, Louise, and I'd love for you obviously to see this and everyone here, is we, about a month ago, we got the DJI generator, the D12000 IE generator. So I just want to show you that. So I'm just taking. Yeah, so just showing that. So this is a beast of a generator. So this D12000 IE, and you'll see on this end over here. So this is made specifically by DJI for charging the batteries only. And for context, the size of the battery here, for those of you who haven't seen it, this battery weighs about 8 kgs. And it's probably like, if you're familiar with the Phantom 4 series, it's like a combination of maybe, I would say, maybe 10 Phantom 4 batteries put together to make one of these batteries. That's how heavy it is. And that's the size of it. Context. Okay.
Do you have fitness courses?
Do I have?
Do you have fitness courses for lifting and maneuvering 8 kgs of batteries around?
This is like a gym workout. Like if you put two together, you could definitely do like a proper workout with these batteries. So I'm just going to plug it in and we're going to get it on. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, for context for you guys. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So you guys can see just in terms of context. For that.
Point recorded. Fasten all arm locks securely to prevent potential safety risks.
Right. So
Upward obstacle
it's just going through the chain. It's connected to GPS, right? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the spraying, but let's take off and let's see what we can see. Okay. So stand by.
Okay.
So this is me. All right. And that view from there. Okay. In fact, what I'm going to do, let me do this so you guys can see. The cool thing about this is with the agriculture crop spraying drones, we can spray day and night. So we can do night spraying as well. So I'm going to switch on the spotlight so you guys can take a look at that before it gets noisy. Once I get started, it's going to be very hard for you to hear me until I land. Okay, so just stand by, getting the lights on, front spotlight, back spotlight, So our lights are on for context so you guys can see. All right, and then I'll switch it off, the back one, so you guys can see. Stand by.
Aircraft preparing to take off. Stand back at a safe distance. People or obstacles detected. Take off. Push control stick right to cancel. Fly with caution. Obstacle above aircraft. Fly with caution. People or obstacles detected.
All righty. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop there. Okay.
People or obstacles detected. Aircraft disconnected.
All right, guys. So that was a very short demo. I'm sorry, it got super dark super quickly. I don't think you guys saw much of the spraying there. But that's okay. I think we just wanted to kind of get you guys to see it and how it works and how it operates and that kind of thing. So yeah, so let me hand over to you, Louise, and anyone else questions now while I move back inside. So go ahead. I'll still be online if you have any questions you guys want to ask. Okay.
First of all, thanks very much. That is an impressive drone. Can I just check what model was it? Is that the T30, the Agras T30?
Yeah, so this is the Agras T30.
Okay.
So it was the king of drones for about a year and a half when we had it, and then now they've just released the T40. And the difference between T30, T40 is just in the name and in the size of the tank. So T30 has a 30-liter payload, and T40 carries a 40-liter payload. That's really the difference, yeah.
Wow. And I mean, how long is your flight time in that?
I will say it's absolutely horrible. I've always said that there's this conspiracy around the battery life of these, these drone batteries because they don't last as long as they should. So this one lasts a total of about 12 minutes
Gosh.
on average. So 12 to 15 minutes at most. So that's why it's important for us to have multiple batteries, but not so many per se. We operate with about 3 or 4 batteries at a time. And then the generator. The generator is really the icing on the cake. That is really where the technology is brilliant, because the generator.
Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Never seen that generator before. That's great.
Yeah. So it can charge the batteries in 12 minutes on the dot. Wow. So if you look at all the other types of drones, your Phantom series, your Mavic series, Matrice series, and that kind of thing, normally it takes 30 minutes to, in fact, 30 minutes is generous, 40 minutes to over an hour to charge a battery, and you have to wait for the battery to cool down. When it comes to these batteries here, we can literally take it off the drone. It can be hot, and you can put it on the charger, it'll start charging, and you can put your stopwatch on, and 12 minutes or 12 minutes, 30 seconds flat, it'll be fully charged and ready to go.
Gosh, that's fantastic. And how long does that generator, how many batteries can you process through the generator before you, I'm presuming, you could be out in the middle of the field and you can't, that generator needs to be charged itself, does it? I mean, how does that work?
So it's a petrol powered generator. So it operates like a normal one. Only charges one battery at a time, unfortunately.
Right. Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. So you get about 12 minutes. I mean, that must be quite, how does that affect, how the area that you can cover? Obviously there's, weather conditions have an influence, but I'm curious how good is the 12 minutes that you get for doing your job, doing the spraying job?
So it really depends on what crop you're spraying, what height, what spray width, and the volume of whatever you're spraying, you're putting down. That's really what determines the area that you cover. But on average, we do at least no less than 1 hectare per battery. And sometimes we can get 2 to possibly 2.5 if we want to make sure that the volume is good. Some people can push it to 3, but then you wouldn't be putting down enough per hectare in general. But we get at least 1 hectare. Okay,
right. And what's your experience of how the farmers have benefited from that sort of, that sort of attention to area, the hectare per and so on? I'm curious, the return on investment, so to speak, on that, that operational ability.
So in particular, I think different farmers have different needs and depending on the crop. So we've had farmers call us in for different things. So the people who've called us in the most this season, it's because we had a very good rainy season. So the ground was very waterlogged. So they weren't able to get in with their tractors and their boom sprayers, what they normally use, those tractor-drawn boom sprayers. In some cases, they couldn't even move in their pivots. So they've got these $100,000 pivots that they can't move into their field because it's too muddy, right? So they're calling us in because they have no other choice, right? And then when they bring us in, then they see, wow, okay, this is way more efficient than we expected, and then, they've kind of had that kind of surprise. In some cases, it's been because of pest and disease, where the farmer is saying, right, normally I have knapsacks and people who work for me and, the farm workers, but normally one person can spray 1 hectare a day. That's normally the average that a person can do with the handheld knapsack. Whereas we can spray 1 hectare in 12 minutes, essentially. So they're saying, right, I've got 50 hectares. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this and get in there and spray to protect my crops from disease and pest quickly enough. That's where the drone comes in, is able now to do it a lot faster than what they could have done before. Yeah.
Fantastic. Has anybody else got any questions? I'm sorry, I'm dominating here. I'm just so very interested in what I've just seen. Anybody else? Can't see any hands up at the moment.
So I have a quick question. So in Arkansas, for example, near Memphis, if we wanted to connect with you, do you do any work in the Mid-South, the U.S.? How would we connect with you, or would we be able to work with you to do the ag work, say in fields in East Arkansas, North Mississippi, West Tennessee?
That's a brilliant question. So we don't have a branch anywhere close by there, but I'm happy, very happy to open up a branch in Arkansas. and start off offering services there. But I think for now, what I could do is maybe just do quick research in my network and see who would be the closest, because we're connected to quite a few farmers in the ag space, even in the States, and then see, if they're able to help you from that perspective. We're a little bit far away to be able to come out and help them.
Well, thank you for that. So I was just wondering if you do any work in the States, and we would, maybe we can figure out how to do that. So.
Oh, yes, please. We'd love to do that.
Fantastic. Can you drop your contact details in there, Nita?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you. Excellent. Any other comments? Any other questions out there?
Hey, Louise, not a question, but just a comment to thank him so much for putting this together. This has been great. I love the presentation and learning more about your organization, but then also taking the time to do the demonstration. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're most welcome.
Very, very impressive. Thank you for your time.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. I do have a couple more questions, if I may, if nobody else has. You know me. I can't help asking questions. I'm just curious. One of the things that's so good about crop spraying using drones is you can apply it for farmers that may not be able to afford the traditional aerial crop spraying. I'm wondering what the smallest plots you've worked on, but equally maybe some of the biggest. What's the level that you can go up to that you still remain competitive? Have you got to that point with your experience? To sort of comment on that.
Yeah, I guess I can comment a little bit on that. So we've now creating the business model have got kind of like a focal area where we're saying, right, for it to make sense, more often than not, your farms are definitely outside of the main city. So there's a lot of traveling that you have to do to get to the farms. So we've got to put that in context and say, right, if we're going to travel somewhere, it needs to be worth it or worthwhile. And because we're able to do, for example, at least 1 hectare, and I'm being generous, we're saying 1 hectare, but on average, we're doing between 8 to 10 hectares an hour, to be fair, right? So if we can cover 8 to 10 hectares an hour, right, we don't want to be traveling 200 kilometers to spray 5 hectares. So even though we can, right, it's just economically doesn't make sense because it costs more to go there than what it costs for us to charge for the service. So we've set a minimum to say our minimum is 10. So we won't really go and spray anything less than 10, even though we can, unless they're really, really close to where we are. Otherwise, then it just doesn't make sense. Then in terms of how far we can go in terms of capacity, so per drone, we're able to spray between 60 to 75 hectares a day, if all conditions are okay. So like obviously wind is a consideration. And also we are very comfortable doing day and night operations. So we try not to spray when it's very, very hot. Louise, you know, obviously that's not the best time to spray crops anyway, right? So between about 12 and 3 p.m., or in fact 11 till 3 p.m., we try not to be spraying that time. And we're very happy to say, look, we'll do early morning and then we'll come back in the evening. So in some cases, there's a farm we went to, we arrived there at 5:30 p.m. and started spraying just after 6. And we were there till like 1 a.m. in the morning. But I mean, the next morning, and it was one of those emergency situations where the farmer had pests in his crop. He had armyworm in his crop, and he was very worried. So we got in there, sprayed, and the very next morning, we left, we sprayed and everything. The next morning, he calls us and says, "Hey, he was so excited and so happy." And saying, "Thank you so much. The worms are dying," and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's things like that we love being able to do that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. I'd had another question and it's just gone straight out of my head for the moment. It'll come back, I'm sure, but that's fantastic when you actually get that right on feedback right there and then saying this is really having a positive impact on my farming operations. I'm just curious, Oh gosh, sorry. I'm curious, what sort of, you must have some interesting challenges when you're flying at night. I mean, that's a big drone. What are the sort of redundancies for I'm curious about the DJI drone setup for that, in terms of, you can hear the voice when you had the demonstration of this lady telling you, beware, there's objects here, there's this there, there's that there. There's a lot more instruction coming from the controller than there is for a Phantom.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of obstacle avoidance. I will say this, in terms of technology, the Agris series is probably one of the more advanced, just in terms of the entire drone series. The DJI line of enterprise drones and agriculture drones is very up there, but there's still a lot of issues that we find while we're operating the drone. So they're not perfect, right? There are issues. You can still crash. We have crashed. But we don't obviously like to talk about that, but we have crashed. And one of the cases when we did crash, it was at night. But that was due to human error, not because there was an unknown obstacle in the place, right, that we were operating. So the drone is very good at picking up obstacles. It's very good at that, right? And then kind of, it depends now on the obstacle. It will determine whether it's going to stop on its own, or do a sense and avoid and actually move around it and continue. It decides that, essentially, right? But for the most part, yeah, it's really outside of human error. We haven't really had too many issues with the drone.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to hear. A comment's just come up here from Gillian, saying perhaps you could do some consulting work on, or even is your training online in terms of the using drones in agriculture, I believe. I think that's where the question is coming from.
Thank you for that question, Gillian. So interesting enough, right now we're actually in the process of recording our material and putting it online. So in the next couple of weeks, most of our training programs will be online, from the RPL all the way through to our industry-specific training courses. It's actually in production right now. So we'll be able to do that. And then consulting, for sure. We do consulting. So we're actually consulting for some companies that are outside of Zimbabwe. So in Botswana and other countries around us, Zambia, we are doing consulting work. So we're happy to do that as well for you in the States.
Brilliant. Okay. I did put your LinkedIn contact details, and I also put your YouTube on the chat earlier, and I have now subscribed. By the way, I hope everybody else has. But is there any other contact details you want me to put on there for the consulting and training related?
Yeah, you can put my number up. I don't mind.
Okay. All right.
As long as you don't message me. Okay, fine. I guess you can't message me at 1 a.m, but yes, it's fine. Yeah, it's okay.
Well, I think that's fair enough. You don't want to have that. Okay, I'm going to put your number in right now. I'm sorry to say we're running out of time. I really don't want this session to end, actually. I'm really sorry. Has anybody else got any other comments for Tawanda? Any other questions before we have to sign off, unfortunately and reluctantly? Hang on, I'm just putting in your number now. So when's your next conference coming up?
To be advised.
Yeah, okay.
We'll let you know.
Okay, yeah, because yes, I'm looking forward to it. I would very much like to attend that this year, and I think Labor also said, I saw a thumbs up there as well. So looking forward to hearing about that when you got some news for us.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Really? Anybody else got any other questions? Oh, sorry. The cost of. Gillian also asked about the cost of those drones.
Okay, so the cost of the drone. So depending on which region you're in, luckily, if you're in the States, it's cheaper. It's cheaper than if you're in Southern Africa. So you're looking at a base price. So that's the very basic entry level with like one battery. You're looking at a range of, I think the T40 now is coming in at about $15,000 before the generator and all the other different things and extra batteries. But if you want to get the full kit so you can actually operate properly, you're looking at between $20,000 and $25,000 if you're in the States. If you're now on South Africa side or anywhere else outside of the States, really, then you've got to consider shipping fees, import duties, taxes, customs, and agent fees. So it can go now definitely 25,000 going up from there.
That's me. That's eye-watering.
That's a lot of money.
Oh, crumbs. Okay. I'm just curious. You mentioned something about Zambia. What are you up to in Zambia?
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it,
Oh,
but
okay.
yes.
Right.
Don't worry. No, don't worry. So we've been working with a company in Zambia for the last year and a half now. We're looking at partnering, or we're partnering with them to kind of replicate what we've been doing here in Zimbabwe, because Zambia currently doesn't have any local training schools, for example. So we're looking forward to helping them set up a training school there, as well as on the commercial service side with agriculture. There's quite a number of clients of ours that are saying, look, we've got operations as well in Zambia. Can we move, and do more of the spraying stuff in Zambia? So we're trying to figure that out now as well. So we're looking for just financing to build our capacity. So just kind of investment and, trying to figure out how we can build our capacity that way.
Cool. Okay. Well, excellent. Well, I wish you, I look forward to hearing more about that shortly. Okay.
Yeah.
With great reluctance, as I said, I'm sorry, we're going to have to draw this to a close. We're on 6:30, sadly. Thank you so very much, Tawanda, for joining us, and especially for giving us a live demonstration of the Agris T30. That is one heck of a beast to be responsible for. And everything. So thank you so very much for joining us, and please keep up the good work with what you're doing and helping agriculture and disaster management, getting the training out there, educating people, bringing these careers in the aviation space to people. Absolutely fantastic with what you're doing, and full admiration for you, Tawanda, for what you do. So thank you so very much for joining us. And we'll have the next fireside chat at the beginning of May. Some details to follow. So again, thank you, Tawanda. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you in May. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Louise. Thank you everyone for joining.
Okay.